Go into the world and tell every man that you meet, there is a man on the cross.
A Catholic Take. What you need to know right now. A bold synthesis of inspiration and information. Keeping you up to date on the news and issues from a courageous Catholic perspective.
A Catholic Take with Joe McClane starts now.
Praise be to Jesus Christ. Welcome back to A Catholic Take, a bold synthesis of information and inspiration. I'm your host, Joe McClane. Praise be to God. It is good to be on with you. And just a few moments ago, Pope Leo prayed with King Charles. Now, it was interesting because we talked about this on Monday with Mark Lambert from Catholic Unscripted. This is like political theater, but interestingly enough, the king actually didn't say anything. He and Queen Camilla just sat there, but all on the same equal playing field. It's a great idea, a nice idea towards reconciliation. This would be wonderful. Praise be to God, we'd all want it. But here's the reality. Pope Leo was not their equal. I wish he would have sat in his big chair off to the left, but maybe we'll talk more about that in the show today. Some are calling for the king to abdicate back in the UK because they say it's a violation of his oath. So I'm sure we're going to get into that a little bit today on the program. But in the meantime, we've got Mike McCormick on the team at 14 Past. He's got an article over on his Substack linking the CIA and Hollywood. And that's going to be a fun combo. The deep state, CIA using Hollywood for its ends. I mean, this is the stuff Hollywood is made of, right? So we'll be talking about that on the show. And, of course, Donald Trump destroys the White House, utterly destroys the White House, tears it all down. Can he do that? Well, actually, he can. He wants to build a big, beautiful ballroom, a ballroom like no other ballroom, apparently. We're going to get into this, but, the real issue is Donald Trump performs a Hindu ritual in the Oval Office. No, take that in. Smell that. Ruminate on that a little bit. Donald Trump, someone who claims to be a Christian, who's married to a Catholic, performs a Hindu ritual in the Oval Office. This is bad. This is not a good thing. Nicholas Cavasos is going to be on the team today to weigh in on these stories, as well as Cardinal Cupich siding on the side of immigration after his Dick Durbin fallout. We're going to get Nicholas Cavasos from the Traditional Thomist on the team at 30 past the hour to conversate on all of that, plus a lot more. We'll put the links to the show notes up for you at the top of the hour at thestationofthecross.com/ACT. So much to get into today. Do us a favor. Let us know what you're thinking in the live video stream com boxes, which you can find at thestationofthecross.com/ACT. In the name of the Father, the Son, and the Holy Ghost. Amen. Remember, O most gracious Virgin Mary, that never was it known that anyone who fled to thy protection, implored thy help, or sought thine intercession was left unaided. Inspired by this confidence, I fly unto thee, O Virgin of Virgins, my Mother. To thee do I come, before thee I stand sinful and sorrowful. O Mother of the Word incarnate, despise not my petitions, but in thy mercy hear and answer me. Amen. In the name of the Father, the Son, and the Holy Ghost. And now your saint of the day.
Saint Theodore of Antioch, pray for us. Theodore served as a priest in Antioch during the mid-4th century, entrusted with the care of the sacred vessels and treasury of the church. He was known for destroying pagan idols and building churches over the tombs of the early martyrs. In the year of our Lord 362, the governor Julian, an apostate himself, and the uncle of the infamous Emperor Julian the Apostate, banished the Catholic clergy from Antioch. His true aim was to seize the church's treasures. Theodore refused to leave his people and continued to openly celebrate Mass. He was arrested and brought before the governor, who accused him of crimes against the pagan religion. Theodore responded by admonishing the governor's apostasy, and he was immediately beaten and tortured. Despite his terrible injuries, Theodore continued to praise God. Then, in fear and awe, the executioners refused to continue, claiming they saw 4 angels surrounding him. The furious governor ordered the executioners to be drowned, then confronted Theodore once more. Unshaken, Theodore called the executioners his brothers and foretold the fall of both the governor and the apostate emperor. Enraged, the governor finally ordered Theodore's beheading, sending the holy priest to his glorious reward. Saint Theodore of Antioch, pray for us.
And now your headline news. Catholic News Agency reports Pope Leo XIV to name St. John Henry Newman a patron saint of Catholic education. Pope Leo XIV will declare St. John Henry Newman a co-patron of Catholic education alongside St. Thomas Aquinas in a document tied to the 60th anniversary of Gravissimum Educationis. Cardinal Tolentino di Mondanza announced the upcoming designation at a press conference highlighting Newman's role as an extraordinary educator and great inspiration for the philosophy of education. The Blaze reports transgendered boxer returns to the ring, sparks outrage. Taiwanese boxer Lin Yuting, a biological male who previously competed in women's sports, returned to the ring and defeated a 19-year-old female opponent in just 94 seconds at the Taiwan National Games. The bout reignited global debate over fairness in women's sports, with critics arguing that governing bodies are ignoring safety concerns and biology and common sense and concern for their own souls, because hell is real and people go there. Catholic Vote reports Catholic school dismisses teacher who made false ICE alert. A teacher at a Catholic high school in Wisconsin was dismissed from his job after publicly warning against what he said were undercover ICE agents in photos posted online. The men were in fact employees of a local emergency management firm, according to local outlets. Those are your headline news. The gospel today comes to us from Luke chapter 12, verses 49 through 53. Jesus said to his disciples, I am come to cast fire upon the earth, and what will I but that it be kindled? And I have a baptism wherewith I am to be baptized, and how I am straitened until it be accomplished. Think ye that I am come to give peace upon earth? I tell you no, but separation. For there shall be from henceforth 5 in one house divided, 3 against 2, and 2 against 3. The father shall be divided against the son, and the son against his father, the mother against the daughter, and the daughter against the mother-in-law against the daughter-in-law, and the daughter-in-law against her mother-in-law. The Gospel of the Lord. Laus Tibi Christi, the great commentary of Cornelius a Lapide, would say, Christ, after much teaching of the apostles and faithful, may at last have stated the primary duty that he was sent into the world by the Father to fulfill, namely, that he should send fire from heaven on the apostles, that they, when inflamed by it, might kindle it in the rest of the other faithful. For by this the apostles would fully and efficaciously perform the work that had been given them by Christ of evangelizing the whole world and converting it to him, and the faithful would exactly carry on the instructions of the apostles. They have but one mission in life. They were only ever given one mission, to go forth and make disciples of all, not some, not to play patty fingers in the holy water and play nicey nice. Their job is to make converts, to make disciples, to bring them into the fold, the family of God, into God's grace and forgiveness, into a beatific vision, to eternal happiness, rather than eternal damnation. How much charity must they have? They must have enough to set the world ablaze. Symbolically, St. Ambrose says, God is a light to lighten and a fire to burn up the chaff of men's vices. He is light, he says, to shine like a lantern for one who is walking in darkness, so that whosoever seeks it in its brightness cannot err. He is fire to consume the straw and chaff of our works, as gold, the more it is refined, is better proved. So Clement of Alexandria, in his exhortations to the Gentiles, says, the Savior has many voices and methods of man's salvation. In threatening, he admonishes. By prohibitions, he converts. With tears, he pities. In songs, he speaks through the cloud. By fire, he strikes terror. The flame is a mark at once of grace and of fear. If you be obedient, it is a light. If disobedient, a consuming fire. Ooh, let's say that part again, because I think that's important. The flame is a mark at once of grace and of fear. If you are obedient, it is light, light resplendent, it is pure joy. But if you are disobedient, it is a consuming fire, and you are in agony. God is an all-consuming fire, and you will be burned up, and only that which is pure shall be left over. That is the teaching of St. Paul in Corinthians. The wood, the straw, the stubble will all be burned away. Only the gold, the silver, and the purity shall remain. Let's be honest. How have we lived our lives? Is there anything pure that remains? If not, go to confession and make a good and worthy confession, that you might be purified while there is yet time. We'll be back.
iCatholic Mobile is a proud sponsor of the Station of the Cross. Solid connections, reliable data. That's iCatholic Mobile, a 5G wireless provider dedicated to your faith and values. Enjoy unlimited talk and text, dependable coverage nationwide. And every plan has unlimited data and free roaming in Canada and Mexico. iCatholic Mobile, the service that connects you to what matters most. More info at iCatholicMobile.com.
Praise be to Jesus Christ. Welcome back to A Catholic Take, a bold synthesis of information and inspiration. I'm your host, Joe McClane. So good to be on with you. Praise be to God. Coming up at 30 past the hour, while Donald Trump is, busy tearing down the White House, utterly destroying the people's house. Actually, he just wants to build a big, beautiful ballroom, but nonetheless, he's also busy with Hindu rituals in the Oval Office. This is not a good thing. You're opening wide the door to the devil and the diabolic with this pagan occult ritual. And we're going to be talking about that with Nicholas Cavasos on the team at 30 past the hour. So do join us for that if you can. But there's a great article over at Mike McCormick's Substack. And I got to tell you, I was very interested once I saw it. It says a CIA Hollywood timeline with an assist from the New York Times. You remember Robert Redford? God rest his soul. But remember it was 3 Days of the Condor? Do you remember Argo? This came out about 10, 12 years ago. This was a great movie, but this was based on a true story. Joining us now to talk about all of this is Mike McCormick himself. Mike, good morning to you. Thank you for your time.
Hey, Joe. How you doing? Good to see you again.
Good to have you on the team. Praise be to God. Thanks for coming. So CIA and Hollywood, bosom buddies for a long time now.
Yeah, the picture that you showed that I had on my Substack there, that was Robert Redford and a former director of the CIA, Richard Helms, sitting at a break during the filming of that movie. The movie's 50 years old. It was made in 1975. It came out in just about 50 years ago, September of 1975. And what I found is I saw it as a young person and thought the CIA was a pretty cool thing. I live in Maryland. I grew up with CIA families around me. I mean, I went to junior high school with kids in the CIA. Some of them knew it and some of them didn't know it. So we had a lot of people around us that talked about it, knew about the intelligence community. This was 50 years ago, and this was the CIA working with Hollywood to promote a vision of the world and use Hollywood as its messaging platform. One of the really sinister things, especially for Catholics about this movie, is the title, 3 Days of the Condor. Part of what I write about in the Substack is how the CIA in this movie, at the very end, they kind of reveal themselves. We're going to have this, there's a secret plot within the plot. It gets exposed by the New York Times, but it doesn't get exposed by the New York Times because the CIA controls the New York Times.
Right.
And the secret plot involves a potential invasion of an oil country in the Middle East. But they also talk about this guy Condor. You know, they have this confrontation on the street at the very end. The guy from the CIA, representative of the CIA, Cliff Robertson is the actor. He says, "We play games." Well, the game they were playing was that at that time, there was an actual Operation Condor at work in South America to undermine communist takeover, the communist encroachment of governments there. And so what happened was in Argentina and Brazil and other countries, the CIA went there and allied themselves with far-right dictatorships. In Argentina, that meant they were working with the people who began the silent war, the deadly killing of civilians. There is another movie that comes out not too long ago. It came out in 2019, The Two Popes. And in The Two Popes, there's a big segment of it of how certain priest from Argentina named Jorge Mario Bergoglio was working with the right-wing dictators. He was going in and out of their offices and then going back to his sort of activist priests on the street. And those guys wound up getting kidnapped and tortured and released. Two priests that he was working with. And this all comes out in the movie, The Two Popes. One guy forgave Bergoglio. They both said that he was the reason that they got kidnapped. They both said that he was basically working with the dictatorships to get them put away and tortured. One guy forgave him. The other priest said, "No, I can't forgive him." Well, you know, we both know that Bergoglio went on to become the Pope. I've written my book, An Almost Insurmountable Evil, about how Theodore McCarrick, a good friend of Bergoglio's, I think he was a CIA operative. And I think he was a CIA operative at this time in 1975. And I think Bergoglio was being pulled into the CIA at that time.
You know, it's something I've said many times. We can vote. We can go to the polls. We can vote. And, you know, prayerfully, we have a vote that counts and it's not manipulated and hijacked and all the rest. But no matter how I vote, no matter how the country votes, it seems like the deep state intelligence apparatus never changes, no matter how we vote, no matter who sits in the office, no matter who controls Congress. It seems like that intelligence apparatus remains the same. How is that? How is it that we have no say whatsoever in what that section of our government and federal system does or doesn't do?
I think we actually do have more of a say, especially now with Trump in office. I mean, I'm a big Trump supporter. And, you know, I write these books based on my time working in the White House from 2002 to 2018 as a stenographer in the press office. So I saw the press. I saw how the presidents are. And what's interesting about this movie, The Two Popes and 3 Days of the Condor, is how scared the elites are, how scared the ruling class is, how scared the CIA is of us getting really a hold of the truth. And part of what's happening now with the internet, with podcasts like yours, with Substacks like mine, is we get to cipher through the truth. The New York Times that I worked alongside in the White House would never report on the things that I put in my Substack. I reported on McCarrick that no one else would. McCarrick went into the White House and had meetings with Obama, Biden, and Dennis McDonough, the White House chief of staff, to set up human trafficking across the southern border. And it was Trump who came in and stopped it. And Pope Francis stood up and said, "Wait, we can't have this guy. We need a guy who builds bridges, not walls." Well, Trump said no. And the American voters said, no, we want Trump. We want walls. And that's what we have now. The attack, the declared war that Trump is bringing to the cartels right now is, to me, a testimony of the fact that, yeah, the voters do have a say. We're getting at the root of the evil, which is cartels. And the Vatican had a lot to do with it.
How much involvement do you think the CIA maintains even today, just, you know, despite the fact that we can even have these conversations that we weren't able to have 50 years ago when Robert Redford was making that movie on social media? We can talk about things and communicate things to the masses in ways that we never were able to before. But how much control or interaction does the CIA have with Hollywood today? How much does it have with the New York Times or other media outlets?
I think they're pretty well in hand. But, you know, that's what's happened with the Trump White House. You know, I like I said, I worked in the press office. So I would sit in the room as a stenographer while President Bush or President Obama was talking to a member of the press. And I would watch as they were very cautious at what questions were being asked. And they had to be very careful. And they had their spokespeople come out and talk to the press from the podium because they didn't want to do it. What you see now is Trump basically running the press ragged with all the exposure that he gives them. He confronts them daily. He's the best spokesman. He's the best press secretary, White House press secretary that has ever lived, and he's the president. He doesn't need the press secretary like other presidents have because he's basically telling the truth. It's not easy to tell all the truth when you're the president. There's a lot of things that have to be held back, but he's doing a great job of it. And so I do think that the CIA has to stand back and say, you know what? This guy he's running the show, and he's taking the reins of power away from us, away from the secret, shadowy elites that held power and sway behind the scenes.
Yeah, well, there's a lot of people who believe that's what happened under JFK and that didn't end well.
Yeah, right. It didn't. And that's part of what that movie was about. The movie came out in 1975 as they were having the Church Committee hearings. They were looking to what the CIA had done over the previous 10 years. A lot of it had to do with the Kennedy assassination. Helms was on the fringe of covering up what the CIA did in that Kennedy assassination. So he's sitting there talking to Robert Redford. And Robert Redford goes on and becomes a very influential director. He runs the Sundance Film Festival. He becomes a very influential messaging platform for our culture, our American culture. Did the CIA influence him? I think they did. And I think there was a lot of influence on people like Redford and others in Hollywood for years.
I don't spend a lot of time really researching conspiracy theories at all, but one that gets talked about quite a bit on social media in particular is the MK Ultra program. And I'm fairly certain that that's verifiable, that it actually was a program. And recently I saw a video of a former military interrogator, and he talked about the MK Ultra program that's now been extended beyond just individuals that might have been a part of that program back in the day. Now, the principles of the MK Ultra program are built into social media itself, built into movies that are produced out of Hollywood, built into media. So like the doom scrolling, the constant negativity, the if it bleeds, it leads sort of algorithm in our life. Do you see that's true? Do you think that's fair?
Yeah, I think it's having a huge impact on our kids through video games. I mean, you look at right now what's happening with school shootings. I think there's a direct correlation between social media, video games, phones that came out in every kid's hand starting in 2007. When I started the White House, we had pagers. No one had an iPhone. And all of a sudden, people had BlackBerries, and then they had iPhones. And now we have this culture where kids are online all the time. And it's changing how they react to their parents. It's changing how they view the world. That's an MK Ultra move. And I think there's a lot of very nefarious, and it's Hollywood-based. Those video game producers come out of Hollywood. You know, in 2012, there was a terrible shooting at the school in Newtown, Connecticut. And Joe Biden hosted members of the video game industry in the White House. And I was there working with Joe Biden at the time. He made it sound like he was going to do this clean house and really come down hard on him. He didn't. Basically, he got paid off by him. He just strong-armed him to get money out of him and then become the president in 2020.
Wow. Mike McCormick, thank you for being on with us today. I encourage everybody to check out his Substack article. I'm going to link to it in the show notes today. McCormick.substack.com, but the headline says a CIA Hollywood timeline with an assist from the New York Times. And boy, oh boy, it's like he put a clip to the movie in there too, and it just brought back so many memories. Praise be to God. Mike McCormick, God bless you. Have a great morning. Look forward to having you back soon. Coming up after the break, though, we're going to have a conversation with Nicholas Cavasos. I mean, why in the world would Donald Trump perform a Hindu ritual in the Oval Office? Does he like demons? Is that what it is? He just likes demons being around him all the time? Because that's what you do when you do pagan rituals. You open up the doorway to the occult and the netherworld. Golly gee whiz, someone should tell him this. We'll be back in 2 minutes. Don't go anywhere. More is coming your way. Praise be to Jesus Christ. Welcome back to A Catholic Take, a bold synthesis of information and inspiration. I'm your host, Joe McClane, and here are your headline news. Ground News reports Democrats block government funding bill for the 12th time. The Senate rejected a GOP-backed measure to reopen the government for the 12th time, indicating negotiations remain at a stalemate as the shutdown becomes the second longest in U.S. history. President Trump threatened to force Democrats to vote for the Republican spending plan by making permanent cuts only to Democrat-run programs and denying federal workers back pay. Fox News reports Prince Andrew could be called to testify before Congress over his Jeffrey Epstein ties. Congressman Stephen Lynch wants to invite Prince Andrew to testify before the House Oversight Committee's investigation into Jeffrey Epstein. Virginia Giuffre, God rest her soul, accused Prince Andrew of sexually assaulting her 3 times when she was 17 years old, which Andrew denies. Prince Andrew's connection to the late convicted sex offender Jeffrey Epstein led to his downfall as a working royal and has now given up his title as the Duke of York. Catholic Vote reports there's a poll out, GOP blamed for the shutdown, but Donald Trump's approval is up. Half of Americans blame the Republican Party for the ongoing government shutdown, yet President Donald Trump's approval rating edged up last week in a new Reuters Ipsos poll. Figure that one out. And those are your headline news. Praise be to God in all things. Well, Donald Trump is busy tearing down, destroying the people's house. I mean, like, who does he think he is? Destroying the White House. I mean, actually, he's just trying to build a ballroom. That's all it is. Just a golden, beautiful ballroom. But nonetheless, he is a busy guy, and while he's being busy, he's also performing a pagan ritual in the Oval Office, celebrating the Diwali Day. I don't even know what that is about, but I know it's Hinduism and paganism, and it's bad. We've invited the traditional Thomist to be on the team, Nicholas Cavasos, with his YouTube channel and Pelican Plus, by the way. Good morning to you, Nicholas. Thanks for being on the team today. Appreciate having you here.
Good to see you, my friend. Thanks for having me on.
Scale of 1 to 10, what do you think? Donald Trump performing a Hindu ritual in the Oval Office. Is this a bad thing, a good thing? What do you think?
Oh, it's a bad thing for sure. There's no way to get around it. I'm a Trump supporter, and I told my audience, I appreciate a ton of what President Trump does. I think he's maligned by both the left and the right to kind of a nonsensical degree. But that being the case, I also said that I would call him out for things that I thought was wrong. And this is definitely one of them. And it's honestly kind of just the latest symptom, if you will, or maybe the latest sign of our nation drifting further and further away from its Christian roots. I know that that's even kind of a controversial statement to make. But I was thinking about this story in light of a quotation from my ancestors. So my 4th great grandfather was Josiah Bartlett, who signed the Declaration of Independence and the U.S. Constitution. And he has this famous saying from when the war ended and when America gained its freedom. He says, quote, "We need as a society to confess before God our transgressions and our sins and to implore his pardon and forgiveness through the merits and mediation of Jesus Christ. That the knowledge of the gospel of Jesus Christ be made known to all nations, pure and undefiled religion universally will prevail, and the earth be filled with the glory of the Lord." Talk about more Christian than we typically get from both the White House and the Vatican.
Yeah. This morning, King Charles and Pope Leo got together at the Sistine Chapel. I talked about this on Monday on the show. I had Mark Lambert on the team from the Catholic Unscripted crew, and we were chatting about it, and we thought, it's going to be pure political theater. And honestly, I think that's how it turned out. But interestingly enough, King Charles didn't actually say anything. He just sat there, but he was on the same equal level. I felt like this was the optics that were bad for the church. The Pope and the Anglican, air quotes here, church are not on the same level, are they?
From the traditional Catholic perspective, they're not. But from the modern Catholic perspective, I honestly don't know. And I think that's the confusing thing. People have been ruminating over this maybe the last 2 weeks or so, but it's nothing new. This rumination has been, the Catholic Church, one of its defining, if you will, selling points is the magisterium, right? Our Lord sets up the papacy in St. Peter, and the job of the papacy is to clarify and to keep undefiled the doctrine of faith, the deposit of faith given by Christ. And the key phrase in there especially is to clarify, right? And one of the arguments against Protestantism is, look, you guys have so many denominations, no one can know what is true, right? We have the magisterium, so we can know what is true. But today, let's be honest, the magisterium, by both its statements and its actions, is more confusing than the plain words of the New Testament. And that's, I think, what people are grappling with is that you look at stories like this, stories like the stuff I've been covering over the last couple weeks on my show, right? When it comes to the statistics, the immigration crisis, the death penalty question, Amoris Laetitia, homosexuality, these things are becoming more and more increasingly confusing in the minds of faithful Catholics. And so clarification is needed, but unfortunately, I don't think we're really going to get much.
I guess that's my point in bringing it up at all, is that so goes the church, so goes the world. And Donald Trump, who I have to say at best is a confused Christian. And, the optics of this are terrible. I mean, I get this idea, this notion. King Charles, he placates to Muslims because he feels he has to be the king of all his subjects. He's the king of all his subjects, whether he placates to them or not. Like he either is or he is not the king. Donald Trump either is the president or is not the president of all subjects in America, all citizens in America. He doesn't have to placate to their religious ideologies, their religious beliefs, especially if those religious beliefs are false, especially if they're pagan. I mean, that's dangerous stuff. I mean, shouldn't that just be basic common sense knowledge? But it seems like it's part of the confusion of the world. And when Holy Mother Church, the one holy Catholic and Apostolic Church, does not lead with this idea that all are to become disciples, all are to be baptized, all are to be brought into the Catholic faith, then I guess what do we expect? What do we expect out of people who are, confused Christians at best? What say you?
Yeah, I fully agree with you. I think that people need to remember what the gospel is. I mean, one of the things I've been really concerned about, particularly on my show that I've been trying to emphasize to my audience, is that we're entering into a period where at least the Catholic Church appears to be, in its public messaging, let's just put it that way, very Christless and very gospel-less. What I mean by that is they, at best, if they preach the name of Christ, it's only in the context of leftist social causes that they like, and that's about it. And then when we look at the confusion inside of the White House or inside of the world, there's no proclamation of the goodness of Christ or the glory of God. And just a couple examples off the top of my head, speaking of Hinduism, that President Trump is, kind of giving a green light in some respects to this particular committee. The Pope and the Congregation, I think for the Doctrine of Faith, or maybe it was the Congregation for Interreligious Dialogue, it was probably the latter, right, recently came out with a document welcoming Hindus and celebrating one of their festivals. And it talked about how they were going to worship God, and it gave it the capital G-O-D. And we had Pope Leo recently have a bunch of Hindu delegates come to the Vatican. And there was a piece of video that came out of that was made by the Vatican, an edited video that was celebrating the diversity of all religions. And it's like, okay, where is the gospel of Christ? Where is the first commandment? Thou shalt have no other gods before me. These things are sidelined in the name of pure pluralism. Pluralism is just, again, one of those false gods of our modern era.
I want to switch to Cardinal Cupich here before we go to our break. I want to get into immigration with you in a second. Let me just play this clip from His Eminence Blaise Cupich. Let's have a listen.
My dear brothers and sisters, today I speak to you as your shepherd, but also as a fellow pilgrim who shares the pain of many of our immigrant communities. Families are being torn apart. Children are left in fear, and communities are shaken by immigration raids and detentions. These actions wound the soul of our city. Let me be clear. The church stands with migrants. We stand with a mother who crosses borders to feed her children. We stand with a father who labors in silence to build a better future. We stand with the young person who dreams of safety and a better future.
Golly gee whiz, Nicholas. All I have to do is dream. For instance, my neighbor has got the most fantastic truck. I mean, it's lifted, it's beautiful, it's, full-size crew cab, big off-road tires. I dream of owning that truck. I should just go take it because I've dreamed it, right? So if just one dreams, apparently according to the church, according to Cardinal Cupich, that's all one has to do, and that justifies breaking laws.
Yeah, Cardinal Cupich, of course, what's scary is the fact that he's allowed to remain in his post, number one, but then also been promoted again to such high powers inside of the Vatican. It goes to show where pro-immigration side is. It is the Catholic Church's current standing. And it's sad because, again, we see natural-born Native American citizens who are suffering at the hands of migrants, both from actual crime and then also from the replacement of jobs. but it doesn't matter. They will always be sidelined. And the reason that we will be sidelined is because these people in power, in both the church and in the secular society, often work hand in hand. They wash each other's hands. It's like your last guest alluded to. These individuals work very much so with elements of the federal government, particularly under the Biden and Obama administrations, to facilitate illegal migration, right, for the sake of money, finances, and all kinds of other stuff. And so what needs to be done, though it won't be, is the church and the secular society should investigate individuals like Cardinal Supage and see, okay, what has been your participation level when it comes to the trafficking of illegals across the southern border? Because again, don't just think that it's him standing on the U.S. side of the border and saying, well, we just welcome you with an open arms. No, the bishops have been working with the cartels for quite a long time to facilitate illegal immigration. Investigations need to be done, and that's why this week there's a lot of parishes, financial calls are being given, right? Come and donate to the local diocesan collection, etc. I don't believe people need to give any type of money to an institution that is going to be potentially promoting illegal immigration. Take your hard-earned money and put it into a local traditional community or a group of nuns or something like that. At least be used in a better light.
Why do you think they never make the distinction between legal and illegal immigration?
Well, often in times in their context, the reason they don't care is because many of them are influenced by the Marxist dialectic of oppressor and oppressed. They see, particularly the boomer generation, again, I'm not trying to bash all boomers when I say this, but the boomer generation grew up during the civil rights movement. They were the foot soldiers during that time period. And so they see the world through this lens of perpetual revolution, of getting rid of the oppressor in order to raise up the quote unquote oppressed, even if the oppressed in our context isn't really that oppressed and he's actually the criminal. And so these individuals who live in that type of worldview don't make distinctions. It is what is going to be better for the revolutionary cause, and not making distinctions in this cause, just painting all migrants as just these, the poor and the battered, etc., is much more feasible for their mindset than we would like to admit.
Yeah, but I mean, if I was to try to relate to what they're saying, I mean, Jesus didn't have to worry about borders between, say, Egypt and Israel when his family fled there to avoid detection, capture, and murder, right? So why can't we have open borders?
Well, yeah, I mean, as you probably know, right, it doesn't take too long to know that both Egypt and the area of Israel were just provinces in the same country. So that's number one. It's just like going from state to state. But then second of all, back then, the Romans, of course, were very big on assimilation, right, which is what supposedly we're supposed to be in this country. And the Romans were not happy when people broke their laws. In fact, they crucified people for it. And so, yeah, I don't know if it's a one-for-one comparison fully.
I want to talk about optics coming up after the break. 2 minutes from now, we're going to be back with the traditional Thomas, Nicholas Cavasos. Let's talk about the White House a little bit. Donald Trump is tearing down parts of the East Wing, and it's got a lot of people in an uproar. Should they be in an uproar? Who's paying for this big, beautiful ballroom that Donald Trump wants to build? Gold, by the way. Lots and lots and lots of gold. What is the importance of the optics from I would say, an international political perspective? Washington, D.C. being designed in a way to impress Europeans mostly. I wonder if that's at play here. We're going to get traditional Thomas, Nicholas Cavasos on the team to talk about that in just 2 minutes. Share us with a friend. We'll be right back. Don't go anywhere. Praise be to Jesus Christ. Welcome back to A Catholic Take, a bold synthesis of information and inspiration. I'm your host, Joe McClane. Praise be to God. It's good to be on with you. Hey, coming up at the top of the hour, we'll do the live after show on the live video streams at thestationofthecross.com/ACT. And you get to weigh in with your comments. What do you think? Do you agree, disagree with what we've been talking about today? You can let us know in the comment boxes. Again, at thestationofthecross.com/ACT. Just go to the live video stream there, and you can find all the links to where we're streaming live just underneath that. Praise be to God. But we're talking with the traditional Thomas, Nicholas Cavasos, and we're talking about several stories here. And the one that is getting a lot of uproar on X in particular from the Democrats this week is that Donald Trump is destroying the People's House, destroying the White House. He's just tearing it all down. He's just, how does he have the right to do this? Turns out it's just a portion of the East Wing. It's really not the main house at all. It's just a portion of the East Wing. And it turns out he's trying to build a big, beautiful ballroom. And furthermore, it turns out that he's trying to get the funding from investors or like people who want, rich folks who want to make America great again. He's not even using tax dollars to do it. But there's still such a big uproar over this. Nicholas, welcome back. What do you think about this? Is this just pure optics? Is this Donald Trump trying to, be the prototypical Donald Trump and just gaslight his critics? Or what do you think is really going on here?
Yeah, on the perspective of President Trump, if I had to guess, and I think this is an educated guess, is that he's been very clear that one of his life goals and life dreams was to become president of the United States. But after becoming president of the United States, it's of course to be a good president, a president that is remembered. And so I think he does want to have at least some lasting legacy outside of just the context of policy. He wants to even just make a visible mark as a businessman and as a construction leader for on the White House, right? He's planted 2 great flags. He wants to see the East Wing improved, and I'm all for it, right? I think it's going to look pretty good. That being said, what's interesting to me is the Democrats' reaction. Now, of course, we all knew it was going to be negative. But what's interesting about this particular context of negativity is that we see the Democrats really, since their fall in the last election, have nothing really to run on. They're kind of just grasping at whatever possible low fruit is there to run with, and it's not working for them. And the reason it's not working for them is that when you look at the polls of where Donald Trump's approval rating was, or even more interestingly enough, where the congressional map races are going to be for 2026, right, for their midterms. Back in 2018, right, for those midterms, we saw the Democrats roughly running about 7 points ahead of where the Republicans were, right? And of course, they took about 40 House seats. This time around, if you go to the RCP aggregate and you aggregate all the polls together, the Democrats are only ahead by 1.6. We're almost a year out from the last election, and they've not made a dent in their approval. 1.6 is statistical noise. It's within the margin of error, especially when you couple that with the 2.4 million new registrations the Republican Party has gotten. Overall, the Democrats are trying to find a leader. They can't because their party is schismatic. They're trying to find something to grasp onto to criticize President Trump. But most Americans are tired of TDS and they just want to move on.
How important do you think the optics of a ballroom like this really is?
Well, it depends. You and I are in the White House. And so from our perspective, we might kind of scratch our heads and say, was this necessary? But I think we say sometimes, is it necessary? Because, again, you and I are very fiscally conservative and we don't want to just go and spend a ton of crazy money on something we don't need. But in the context of the White House, it could arguably be very important because of diplomatic relations and, kind of a good show. That's the thing. Trump is the showman. He wants people to have a good time. He wants people to see kind of the glory of what he has created. And there's a good, virtue in that, in the sense of just wanting to really put a good mark on things. And in our context, particularly when it comes to, as you mentioned earlier, dealing with Europeans, showing that America is interested in beauty again, I think is very, very important. And what better place to start than at the White House, where the core of the White House, everybody agrees, is very beautiful. But there's certain buildings on the White House property that, aren't necessarily the greatest and aren't going to be missed, right? Especially if you replace it with a beautiful structure.
I've been to D.C. a handful of times. D.C. in general is not that impressive of a city. It's just its monuments that are to stand out, and no building is allowed to be taller than, I think, George Washington's monument, if I remember correctly, the obelisk or whatever. Like, that's the height. Nothing higher than that. So it's kind of a want type of a city in general, outside of our monuments, which, I don't know, like, I think the church bell tower needs to reign supreme in a place like that. The basilica that's just outside of Washington, near the Catholic University of America, like, that's the kind of thing that I think that would be the most beautiful attraction, especially from Europeans that are used to having big, beautiful churches. But we're lacking all of those in downtown D.C.
Yeah, we're lacking it, I think, at least in the context of Catholicism, because again, who knows about what the building and the city regulations are, but just from the kind of perspective of the overall morality of society, Catholicism, it represents, in the sense of population, a large facet of Americans. But when it comes to actual overall, influence upon American society, it's quite low. And the reason it's quite low is because since the 60s, particularly, the Vatican has really withheld its hand from pushing on social conservative values in the United States outside of the area of abortion. They've been good about abortion, but they have not been really big on, again, pushing the traditional Catholic doctrine of the social kingship of Christ. And I don't think they're interested in that, quite frankly, anymore. I think we have to kind of bite the bullet and accept the hard truth that the Vatican, for almost a century now, has not been interested in the social kingship of Christ outside of kind of just the phrases of a few trads on the internet and in writing spheres. But an overall assessment of DC as a city, because it should be, if you will, the people's city, right? As well as I, of why it's in a district, right, and not inside of a state. I do think it's important for us to really emphasize our national heritage and our national homogeny as at least heritage Americans. And so I love all the monuments, and the only thing I don't like about DC, aside from the corruption, is the humidity. That Potomac River, man, makes everything hot in a swamp.
I don't know. There's some strange birds there, I would argue. There's some real strange birds there walking around. But the basilica is quite amazing. It's quite epic. The mosaics there's some really amazing ones for sure. But again, just being located just outside, it's unfortunate. And if you've ever spent, I actually the only time I've ever been to the White House was at night. I should have gone during the day, but you go at night and the freaks come out at night. And boy, oh boy, were they ever out there in the dark. And it's really dark right out in front of the White House and that little park there, Lafayette Square, I think that is what they call it. It's a little otherworldly. It's a little bizarre, in my opinion. So I always find DC to be this weird sort of, like, it's almost like a stage. It's all like political theater. And from that political theater perspective, I just go back to asking myself, it's like, well, do I really want to invest more in political theater? I want meat on the bone. I want substance. I don't want political theater. I don't want it to be fake or like Hollywood, a Hollywood production. It's just, it feels like a veneer, like almost like it's skin deep. And I think that's the concern that I have in a project like this. And I have to say, hats off to Donald Trump for looking for someone else to pay for it other than the American taxpayer. That's kind of cool, don't you agree?
Oh, it's great. Absolutely. I have a similar experience as you of going to the White House. I went at night and I shouted across the lawn back in 2021, "Wake up, Joe." And I guess it's the truth for all the Joes out there. Wake up, Joe. You got to smell coffee.
Speaking of coffee, I have a whole bunch of coffee here I'll be drinking in the after show, hanging out with you, dear listener, whatever you want to talk about, whatever you think on these subjects, your commentary, that's what's coming up next. Praise be to God in the after show. Tomorrow, we've got Dr. Anthony Stein back, Fridays with Stein. Joshua Charles may also be around tomorrow. So looking forward to that, talking about the early church fathers. And it ought to be very, very good. Praise be to God. So let me know what you think in the com boxes. Just go to thestationofthecross.com/ACT. You'll find the com boxes there on the live video stream. You'll also find our audio podcast, the email list, and you can even get the show notes all right there. We'll see you right back here tomorrow morning. God love you.
And Joe, we are in the after show.
Praise be to God. Good morning. We survived it so far. Good morning, everybody. How many people saw Argo? Nicholas, you see Argo? You know what Argo is?
I have no clue what Argo is.
Come on. Why do you hate movies, Nicholas? You obviously hate them.
Movies.
No, you hate them.
I'm just not super well read.
You hate movies, obviously. If you've never seen Argo, you must hate all movies. That's the only way to interpret that. Argo. What's his name? Ben Affleck? Back before he was Batman. It was based on a true story.
Yeah,
I went through the book first. It's a fascinating story how the CIA used Hollywood to try to rescue the embassy staff in Iran back in the 70s under Jimmy Carter. And how they went to Hollywood and they put on this, they decided they were going to produce a movie. A fake movie. The whole thing was fake. and they were going to do a knockoff on Star Wars because Star Wars was just out, very popular. They decided that they went out and bought, the CIA purchased an actual script that was written to be a knockoff of Star Wars. They hired a production company. They had an office, a telephone, everything. They put articles in the industry rags and everything, just so that they can put up this front, so they can send a crew to Iran to do location scouting. And that crew was actually a CIA team that was trying to bring out all of these hostages that from the Iranian embassy takeover under Jimmy Carter. And remember, they sent Delta Force in, and that failed miserably. They crashed a helicopter in the desert because they had to refuel them. Things went badly. And so they weren't able to rescue them through military operations, so they sent the CIA guy in there to do that. And it's fascinating because he basically takes all of these embassy employees and he gives them cover stories. One is a sound design, one is a makeup artist, one is this and a producer and a that. And so they all become part of this conspiracy of this movie project. And then he flies them out through commercial airplanes. So he takes them to the airport in Iran, in Tehran, walks them through security, and believe it or not, the security calls the production company in Hollywood to verify the story. And it's an amazing story. It's based on a true story. So the CIA working with Hollywood is not always bad. Sometimes it can be good. Very interesting anyway. So you got to watch Argo. You got to watch the movie. The book is always better, though. Hey, White Wolf, good morning to you. Beverly Hamilton, DXD 1500. Lost Creole, good morning to you. What's happening to Nicholas Cavasos, Lost Creole? Did you say he's a full-on SETI now? Total SETI, Nicholas Cavasos. What happened to you, Nick? What happened to you, man? It's all the rumors
so
are true.
Funny.
All the rumors that I read about you.
It's so funny. I 1 week get absolutely roasted by the SETEs because I say I'm not a SETE, and so they spend all of their free time, because most of them are unemployed, tweeting about me. But then on the next week, they're praising me, and I became king of the SETEs in 1 week because all I did was make a video giving the stats about the church and how abysmal things really do look. And apparently I'm the king now.
That's your new title. Let's go with that one from now on.
I'm taking it. I'm the king of SETEs.
I absolutely think it's hilarious. King of SETEs. You've become the poster boy for the Nova Sordo watch. I mean, that's the stuff dreams are made of. That's the stuff dreams are made of right there.
I'm glad I have a new 5-person fan club,
Yes, yeah, man, you have made it. You have arrived. It must feel good. Len Pine, good morning to you. KZ2, James 16897. Unless he is trying to convert the king. You're talking about Pope Leo and King Charles. Well, what do you guys think about that? Pure optics, in my opinion. Is it a good idea? Is it a nice idea that they pray together? Sure. I don't have a problem with the Pope praying with anybody. I don't have an issue with that. But the optics in this case, I think, are important. King Charles is, technically the head of the church in England. And if they're standing on the same level, are they trying to indicate that they're equals now? They're not. They're not equals. They're not even a real church. I mean, they abandoned Holy Mother Church. They walked away from the truth for a lie. They dragged priests out of their holes. They cut their stomachs open and let their intestines pour out before they beheaded them, and then drawn and quartered their bodies and sent them across the empire just to send a message. Like, is that all to just be forgotten now? Like, we're just going to move on? We're just moving on, I guess? We're just like, no, I think I don't think we can just do that.
To be fair, it does go to show what some guys are willing to do to avoid their wives. Just going to say that,
Are you ever going to get married? That just brings up you've opened up a whole nother can of worms now. Are you ever going to just bite the bullet and get married, Nicholas? I mean, what is your deal? Why do you hate women? You're a SETE. You're a SETE. You're king of SETEs.
I'm a SETE.
And you hate all women. This is all we can ascertain from you.
Yeah, honestly, like I'm sure I'll get married one day if it's the Lord's will, but I'm honestly pretty content, not gonna lie, with my season of singleness. Like there was, especially a few months ago, the last few years, I've been like, oh, why have I not found somebody? Oh, woe is me. But honestly, as I've gotten older and I'm just working full time on this new podcast that's going to be launching next month, doing work with Pelican Plus and all my just normal life stuff, I am really busy and I'm really enjoying what I'm doing. And I mean, if I meet a girl, cool. But if not, it's cool too. So I'm sure I'll get married one day, but not today.
Just not today. Well, you never know. It's still early. The day, there's a lot of time left in the day. So you just don't know how things are going to end up. It could end up that way.
The sad thing, though, is, Joe, let's be honest, there's probably no Gen Z level women or aged women that are watching this show. So it's all over. I'm going to go cry. I'm going to go cry.
Get off my lawn, you whippersnapper.
I want to see the demographics of this show. I want to see the demographics.
Do you? I love my audience. They're amazing. Praise be to God. They're smart. And you know what? They tend to have money. Unlike you whippersnappers, you have no money.
That means that means that they're all older because they have money. Because Gen Z's all broke.
That's right. That's right. Christina OFS, good morning to you. Thanks for hanging out with us today. Love the fact that you're on the team. I really do appreciate it. Says, what common prayer can Pope Leo and Charles pray for? It doesn't make sense praying for two different things with two different theologies. Yeah, that's kind of my issue. And I agree. I think it is pure optics. I mean, I thought it was interesting because when they announced that Charles was going to pray with Leo, and then, of course, today, Charles didn't pray anything. I mean, he prayed along, but he had no real part in it other than to just stand there. And I would love to know whether or not that was the original intent. Did they change it? In other words, was he supposed to lead the prayer and then decided, oh, maybe it's not good, I shouldn't do that, and then we'll just stand here and be a part of it? I'd love to know whether or not that was the case, because there's some people who are calling for his resignation right now because they feel he has violated his oath to protect and defend Protestantism. And I find that very, very fascinating. So I don't even know who the guy was. I couldn't catch the gentleman who was on the other side of Leo from the Anglicans. I don't know who he was. He had weird Anglican-like vestments on. I couldn't tell who he was or what his job was. I didn't get his name or anything. So he was the one who prayed on behalf of the king. And of course, they had the Battle of the Bands thing going on. They had the choir of England versus the choir of the Vatican, going at it, head-to-head competition, which was great. But in general, it just feels like wishful thinking. I would have loved for Leo, if nothing else, I would have preferred if Leo sat up on his altar, sat up on his chair, elevated above that other platform. I think that would have been better optics. I would have also loved it if Leo made a statement that said, we pray and look forward to the day when the Anglicans return to their home and to their family and into the proper communion, something like that even. That would have been amazing, but you know how it is. They never want to offend anybody anymore. Cigar boat.
I mean,
go ahead.
I was going to say, if you guys remember when King Charles was coronated, it was fairly soon after that he said that he was going to adjust the traditional Anglican title of Defender of the Faith to the current title, which is today Defender of the Faiths, plural. And so he sees his role as defending the multicultural faith nonsense that's attacking, unfortunately, the UK at the moment. But when it comes to the Pope, I think it's kind of wishful thinking for us to want him to be kind of the trad Catholic that, again, many of your viewers want him to be. The reality is that the popes have been doing this type of stuff now for over 60 years. And it's kind of like Raymond Arroyo said in his interview with Matt Fradd. He's a really interesting guy. He said that, even if the doctrine doesn't change, if the discipline changes in the sense of everybody just starts doing one thing, after an allotted amount of time, that kind of discipline becomes custom, and custom becomes law, and law becomes doctrine. And he gave the example of if he was to show up one day at Mass with 5 of his friends wearing clown suits, and then they were to spread this around, and it became a trend, and no one condemned it. after a certain allotted amount of a period, if it became explosive and then it continued to happen for 5 years, 10 years, 15 years, eventually it goes from just this weird thing that's wrong to now it's a custom, now it's a law, now it's a doctrine. And that's unfortunately where the Catholic Church is that they're very clear that praying with other religions is fine. I don't know how you square that with the traditional teaching. Of course, there's a zillion and one,
right,
Pope-splainers out there that can try to square it, but it is what it is now. And unfortunately, I don't think we're coming back from it.
No. DXD says, what happened to Jake the producer? Did he quit because of the slave wages Joe is paying? Hold on. He's not a volunteer. What? This is news to me. He's getting paid? Are you kidding me? Mike, make a note after the show. Let's have Jake beaten in the public. I mean, just because this is ridiculous.
He's overseas, though, Joe. How do we do that?
Yeah, he's about to sail home on the Queen Mary. How amazing is that? He just took a train ride from northern Scotland all the way to southern England. He's about to jump on the Queen Mary, and he and his lovely bride are about to sail back to Buffalo. Pretty neat. Jake got married, so he's on his honeymoon. He's on his vacation. So we can talk about anything we want about Jake, and he's not here to defend himself. So feel free to lambast him in the com box. That'd be totally fine. Bob,
now that he's not here, I can get this off my chest.
Oh, wow. Finally it comes out. Yeah, praise be to God. Poor Jake. Poor Jake's not here to defend himself. Bob says, for the after show, did the U.S. intelligence community set up Amazon, Twitter, Facebook with Bezos, Dorsey, and Zuckerberg as fronts? No, I can't. I'm going to say I'm not going to go that far. I don't believe that. I believe Bezos he's a entrepreneur. He just wants to make a lot of money, and he went out and created this. But does that mean that people like the intelligence apparatus, NSA, CIA, whatever, Mossad, anyone, does that mean they can't make use of these platforms? Yeah, they don't have to set them up to make use of them. I think they can make use of them without having to be involved in their creation or their success or whatever. They can just tag in and go, hey, this is working right now. Like TikTok. It's widely understood that TikTok is a Chinese Communist Party tool to corrupt the West, which is why Trump is trying to force it to be sold to American buyers. That's why Oracle has purchased it, basically. By the way, Oracle's son, the guy who runs Oracle, his son owns Skydance. Guess what they just bought? Like a ton of properties. They're like a multi-billion-dollar organization right now. Skydance is, entertainment-wise. They own MSNBC, NBC, all I don't even know how many outlets they own, but they own a ton of these media outlets. And it's a father-son duo. Dad owns Oracle, son owns the media conglomerate. Now they own TikTok together. I mean, how do you think that's going to go? Special interests, anyone, whether it's American or Chinese or whatever. I just think we all have to be very careful and considerate about how we use these platforms, because we live in the age of manipulation, whether it comes from China or it comes from the White House or it comes from Israel, Mossad, and everyone else in between. I don't know. I mean, just take it with a big grain of salt, I guess. Joey Carter, good morning to you. Mike should change his nickname to Mick. That would be cool. Mike, are you okay with us calling you Mick from now on? Or is that Mick? Maybe he meant Mike McCormick.
I think so.
No, I think we're going to change your name to Mick, just because Mike's not here.
My middle name's Vito.
So your nickname's Vito?
It is Vito. Vito. Michael Vito Bettino.
Are you going to put a chopped off horse head in my bed someday or something like that? You're going to threaten me, or?
I don't think so.
Should I be concerned about that? I'm not sure. Run, don't walk from social media fire dumpster fire. Flying Tigers, good morning to you, Rob. Praise be to God. By the way, Rob's book is coming out in December. Malachi Martin, you're going to love it. The Shadows of the Vatican. Praise be to Jesus. Rob is a friend of the show and former CIA operative. Rob's the most interesting man I know. Cajun Mountain Man, good morning to you. Says, Joe, I changed my name recently on here. If you've ever wondered where Burrito Pizza Whale went, So you've gone from burrito pizza whale to Cajun Mountain Man. I'm going to say that's an upgrade. 100%, no questions asked. It's definitely an upgrade. An upgrade. DXD says the deceitfulness of riches. Lost Creole, the same with Musk. Elon, my buddy, the rocket man. Angel Knight, good morning to you, says, I've heard that Israel will be operating TikTok. Well, Oracle's going to operate TikTok. All the servers are going to be on Oracle servers. The question is how much of Israel is in Oracle? How much of Israel is in Skydance? Is it Skydance? I'm thinking of ByteDance. What's the Sky one? I forget now. I don't remember.
Blue Sky? Is that what you're thinking of?
No, the media company. I'm forgetting now. So I think it's Skydance, but it's just too close to the ByteDance that I don't like. The ByteDance is the Chinese company that wants to manipulate you and your children. Paul, good morning to you. You're running on 2.5. I'm running low too. I've got an infection in my jaw that's killing me, and that meant like almost no sleep. So I'm feeling the pain, Paul. I know exactly what you mean. Jane says, how Jake is that sailing back on the Queen Mary? I hope he takes a picture of himself with his pipe and scotch, looking over the rail at the ocean. The proof he is being paid. Yeah, Jake gets paid. Praise be to God. Not enough, but he definitely gets paid. Low Key says CIA has investment company that is early investor in most of the big tech companies. I wouldn't be surprised. Now, here's a good question for Nicholas Cavasos, who wants to be a governor someday. Imagine yourself a president. How would you go about the business of trying to control the deep state intelligence apparatus? It seems like that is something we've talked about before. That is out of control. They do what they want. They can always get away with it, it seems. So how do you rein that in? Is it even possible, or is that ship sailed?
Man, that's a good question. I've jokingly told people that if I was to ever run for president and actually get close to winning, that I would probably be, let's just say, removed via gunfire, because one of my policies would be to abolish the CIA, and I don't think that they would allow that to happen, or something to that effect. But realistically, how could one get rid of it? I mean, hire a private security army, pay them an insane amount of money, and then go and abolish the CIA. Like that, protect yourself and abolish the CIA. I honestly don't know how you could get rid of it. That's the thing, is that the deep state intelligence apparatus, the only way I think you could realistically get rid of it is by putting your own men in there and them having the actual, virtue of fortitude of firing and really going at it and digging through that stuff. But we
all thought
really,
that was going to be Kash Patel. Remember? We all thought, Kash Patel is going to be running the FBI. This is going to be amazing. We're going to see a complete overhaul. We're going to get the dirty laundry aired out, and we're all going to be moving forward in a great way. But that definitely didn't happen.
Well, that's the thing, is that the FBI, I mean, people have been calling for the FBI to be abolished for a long time, and I think it's probably apt to. The FBI has done so many things in American society which have been questionable and or illegal. And so they just need to get rid of it. But that's the thing, is, will it ever really be abolished? Probably not.
Nope. I don't see it either. I just can't see a scenario in which all of this gets reined in. I just can't see it. Outside of a thermonuclear war that destroys the complete infrastructure of all of it, outside of the second coming of Christ, I just don't see, power corrupts. And when you have it, when you can manipulate, when you can decide who are the winners and losers on a global stage, how do you ever forfeit that power? Very few people have ever done that. It's part of the reputation of Diocletian, actually, was that he retired, became a farmer, and he was a bad guy. Don't get me wrong, but he had total power, and he decided to walk away from it and just live out the rest of his days as a farmer. Like, that generally doesn't happen. Yeah. It's pretty mind-blowing.
It's the great men in history that are known for that. That's the interesting thing. It's like, you could look at Diocletian, you could look at Gideon. I think about this in Judges 6, 7, and 8, where Gideon, right, he is hiding in a wine press. God calls him to go fight the Midianites and the Amalekites. He performs lots of cool signs. He confirms Gideon as the leader of the army. They defeat the Midianites with 300 men, so he's the OG 300. And then they want to make him king, right? Israel wants to make him king, and he walks away from that, of course. It's very incredible. And then we, of course, see with, I argue with, in a sense, of course, with America's greatest president, right, George Washington. He's president in 2 terms.
Come on, what happened to Taft? Grover Cleveland. Come on, man. Why does Washington always get to be the greatest?
Because Taft is 300 pounds of pure Republican. That's who he is. He's 300 pounds. So he
Wilson. Yeah, what about Wilson? Don't you love the League of Nations? Come on, Wilson, the greatest socialist in the world's history.
Yeah, not a fan. Washington was incredible though. Like I don't know if you saw, but I think it's Angel Studios. It's that Mormon company that's been making The Chosen.
Young Washington.
They're coming out with I'm actually pretty excited for that, not gonna lie, because one, there's like 0 Washington movies out there, which is nuts because we were so bought into anti-American lies.
It's an evangelical
but then number
trope,
2,
though.
Honestly, look, I'm gonna say this. People are gonna get mad at me for saying this. Let's be honest. Most evangelicals, the average evangelical is more based than the average Catholic. You know why? Because the average evangelical
You heard it here, right here on ACT. Tell the whole world.
You heard it here.
Nicholas Cavasos, truly a sede. 100%, no questions asked. It's verified now. Verified.
You know why, though? It's because the average evangelical will always say that Jesus Christ is the one way to heaven, that his blood saves us from our sins. Meanwhile, the average Catholic follows Pope Francis's line of all religions lead to God. I'm just saying the average evangelical is more based in that respect. And the average evangelical is more based on America.
Ouch. Why do you hurt me? Why do you hurt me so much? That's the question. I just get sick and tired of the whole evangelical over fascination with Washington sometimes. It gives me a bias against Washington. I'm quite fascinated with Washington in general. I spent a couple years ago, I guess it was 2020, when we had all that extra time on lockdown. Remember those good days, 14 days to slow the spread? To fill some of that void, I decided to geek out on American Revolutionary history, and so I started going through books on John Adams and Jefferson and Washington, and then of course I had to watch movies about all those same people too. So I was going through this whole period, and I was geeking out on Washington for a while. He is a very interesting and fascinating character, but I just get so tired of the evangelical trope of, like, he's the Messiah, for crying out. Like, stop it. He wasn't that great. He was good, but he wasn't like, he didn't walk on water, for crying out loud. But if you ask an evangelical, it's like he was the greatest thing since Jesus. And it just
sounds like
burns me out.
I don't know. It just sounds like a personal problem. That's all I heard.
Oh,
Joe's
what I hear
personal problem.
I hear is Nicholas Cavasos is going full evangelical now. That's he's basically going to the First Baptist, Second Methodist, whatever. I don't even know what church you're going to these days. But
call me King of the Sedes and Evangelocon Cavasos.
I like that. It was great. By the way, are you wearing Mormon underwear right now? I just want to be sure, be clearer that you are, because if you love Angel Studios, then you're probably wearing Mormon underwear.
Mormonism would be more of a selling point today if it wasn't for the whole underwear thing, and the whole multiple wives thing. That would be a cool selling point. But now they're like, hey, we're going to get rid of the no wives selling point, and we're just going to reduce you down to one. And we're also going to say no coffee and caffeine. So I'm like, what the heck? What happened to your guys' selling point? What the heck? You guys lost it all. I'm speaking tongue in cheek, of course.
He is. He's got that subtle humor. I love it. Christine OFS, good morning again, says, but Nick, we don't listen to falsehoods. I guess it doesn't help when Bishop Barron says it is the privileged way. Speaking of Bishop Barron, what was it? Who was it on X? Was it Rich Reho or Christopher somebody? I forget. Some liberal Catholic was like lambasting Bishop Barron yesterday online because he I don't know, he took a hard line about something. I think maybe, I forget what he took a hard line on. Maybe it was on Charlie Kirk, or I forget what it was on, but I just thought, how rich is this that they're criticizing, they're eating their own by criticizing Bishop Barron. I'm like, come on, you guys have no shame. Colin, good morning to you. David Koresh is Nick's leader. There you go. You heard it here first, folks. So true. P.S. Smith, good morning. I forgot they supposedly don't drink coffee. Who doesn't drink coffee? They are not American if you don't drink coffee. Okay? It's an American institution. Like apple pie, you have to drink coffee. That's the way that goes. Mark D. Laurentis. Hopefully I said that correctly. Dear brothers, with Pelican Plus, can we move money around amongst Catholics in a clean way, not like PayPal? Is that going to be on the? Is that going to be a part of Pelican Plus's future? Are you going to be a pay system like a PayPal, but for Catholics?
That's a good question. I would say email the support team because they would know. Basically, the owner, right, Mr. Dan 70, he is so far ahead of all of us creators and all of his entrepreneurial dreams when it comes to the company. He's doing a lot of really interesting stuff. I think I can announce at least this much, but there's going to be something very close to a Substack-like thing that's going to be now installed into the whole platform. So Pelican Plus is not just going to be us creators. Like at the moment, it's just 5 or 6 of us creators, but we have about maybe half a dozen or so more creators that are going to be jumping on board. A lot of popular names. I won't say who yet, but then also a lot of movies that are going to be coming out exclusive on Pelican Plus. A lot of TV shows that are coming out exclusive on Pelican Plus. Cartoons. A lot of also stuff that's not explicitly Catholic, but made by Catholics. So shows on firearms, hunting and fishing and homesteading and all kinds of stuff like that. And so it wouldn't surprise me to answer your question if there is some type of thing in the works there, but email there. You might get a better answer than for me because I'm just a guy in front of a camera.
You're just a dad with a webcam. I've heard that trope before, but okay.
I'm a dad maybe one day, but I have a camera.
Jack Burton. Are you on the deck of the Queen Mary yet? I'm just wondering. Everybody's asking. It says, we shall do our part to keep up the average nicotine and alcohol consumption aboard, but it's not as easy as in the good old days. So, does that mean you are on the ship? Send pics, man. Send pics. We want to see pics of the Queen Mary. And what's by the way, everybody else is, I don't know if you saw this too, but there's this picture going viral. You know, the other day, someone stole the crown jewels from the Louvre in France. It was like a, Ocean's 11 type of heist, which was amazing. I didn't even talk about it. I didn't even mention it. I should have. It's so, pretty amazing to think about how they were able to pull that off. But then there's this picture of a French investigator is who's looking into it. And everybody's wondering whether or not it's fake because he looks like a young Gen Zer wearing a fedora, wearing tweed. Like, who is this guy? Like, what? Like, this is a stereotype. This is not real. Like, they all expected Columbo or something to walk out, but instead it's this young, cool, hip, good-looking guy in a fedora. Praise be to God. All men should wear fedoras. As Holy Roman Emperor, I would require it. You wouldn't be allowed to walk outside without a hat. Yep, you wouldn't be allowed to walk outside without a hat. No man should be without a hat outside. Just the way it is.
Fedoras were killed.
The way it is.
They were killed a while ago, and there's a reason they were
back.
killed. So
they're coming back. You aren't trad. Clearly, you aren't trad if you don't wear a hat to mass.
Yeah, honestly, I'm probably not trad because apparently I'm king of the sedes. I hate women. I love evangelicals.
You're an evangelical fanboy. Clearly. Yeah. So it's just you're racking them up today, Nicholas.
Love the Mormons. Yeah.
You wear the Mormon underwear just to fit in, just to be cool.
Just to be as American as possible, I embrace the most American religion.
Yeah. Hey, where was I'm just now thinking about the whole Angel Studios Young Washington thing again. Wasn't there another film like about 6 years ago, done by evangelicals on the same subject? And I don't think it went very far. I thought I remember something.
It must have not gone very far because I don't remember hearing anything about it.
I think they did make it. I just don't think it. Outside of evangelical circles, I don't think it was watched. I want to say what's his name? Bartlett. The guy, his last name is Bartlett. His first name is escaping me. He's on with Glenn Beck all the time. He's his historian, evangelical partner. And golly gee whiz, Glenn Beck gets history so wrong all the time. It drives me absolutely mad. I think Bartlett was involved in that. Go ahead. What were you going to say?
I was like, it's tangentially related, but I don't know if you saw, but Ken Burns is making a series now of the American Revolution, and I'm scared. Yeah. I'm scared because it's like, look, outside of the score and Shelby Foote, the Civil War series was rough in many respects. And
Shelby Foote is an amazing guy. God rest his soul.
Yeah, Shelby Foote managed to keep that thing alive, and people loved it. It's like everybody. I've seen. I don't know if you know, but like I think it's Shane McGinnis. He made a comedy sketch about Shelby Foote, and he said if you watch that series, all of the people in it are just basically these stiff academics, and they're just like, this battle took place here, this battle took place here. And then he's like, and all it is just photos that are slowly passing by each other. And then there's Shelby Foote who's like, well, let me tell you about this one story about this soldier who did.
Yeah.
And I'm like, but outside of that, Ken Burns is kind of bad. And so I'm kind of scared that he's going to just be like, this whole thing was horrible.
All right, and who's he going to get? Who's going to be his Shelby Foote for the American Revolution? I mean,
probably some black female academic from a communist school. That's probably who it's going to be. Let's be honest.
Why do you hate all academics now? Like, what? Is there anybody you like? You hate everyone, apparently.
I like Christ. I think he's great. But outside of that, we are all sinners.
Outside of that. Okay. Speaking of which, speaking of Christ, we got into a debate with our mutual friend, Jordan Pacheco, about the Civil War the other day, who I find very Christ-like, Jordan Pacheco. Amazing man. But he, we got into this interesting conversation the other day because I said I was a Southern sympathizer. And he was like, oh, boy. We tried to goad you on to joining the conversation, but clearly you weren't listening or watching that day, which is strange because who wouldn't watch and listen to this show every day? I don't really know. But maybe you were like getting like a heart transplant or, I don't know, toe fungal treatment. I don't know what you're doing that day, but clearly you are occupied with something seemingly more important as to not be tuned in, because it was the perfect opportunity for you to join the combo. Because I think he's a big Lincolnite fan, if I'm not mistaken. So we need to we need to have a debate between you, him, and me. I would say it'd be fun to do.
Yeah, that would be fun. I mean, Jordan has a bit more of a mainstream today perspective on the Civil War, but I mean, it is what it is. I don't really blame him because, let's be honest, when you're black, it's not easy to support the South. So
it's not.
I'm just saying it. Everybody
it comes with downsides.
I'm just saying it.
It's Captain Obvious.
I agree with you, but I'm just saying, in the context of optics, let's be honest.
It doesn't go well. It doesn't go over well, but that's okay. Lincoln's still a very bad guy. I don't care. Doesn't matter. Lincoln bad. DXD says, I just go up to a woman and say to her, marry me, and I'll buy you a new Cadillac. Is that how that gets done? Do people still buy Cadillacs? Is that still a thing?
I was going to say, how old are you, sir? How old are you, sir? Cadillac?
Like, what would be the Gen Z equivalent of buying a Cadillac?
Tesla.
Would that be like
Tesla?
It would be a Tesla. Tesla's way more expensive than a Cadillac was back in the day, though.
Yeah.
Cadillacs weren't nearly as expensive. Yeah. I don't know, man. Maybe like a Toyota Camry. How about that? I'll buy you a Toyota Camry. It's very sensible. Gets great gas mileage, very efficient.
And that's very alluring to the female mind. Here's this Toyota Camry. Go on a date with me, please.
See,
please go on a date with me.
What you need is tattoos. That's your problem. You have no tattoos. You need tattoos.
How old are you, Joe? Tattoos? What?
You need like you need to get tattoos down to like the sleeve. That's what all the coolest
Gen
kids
Z
have
has
them.
it kind of has mixed feelings on tattoos. I'm fairly anti-tattoo, but it's like with Gen Z, it's either you just absolutely hate tattoos or you're going to get your whole body covered with tattoos. You know, it's kind of like politics. You're either a communist and you're gay, or you're just like this flaming national socialist.
Why
like,
do
pretty
you
much no
hate communists now? Like, Nick, you just hate everyone.
Communists are the worst.
He's lighting the whole world on fire today. Lexuses are nice, but they're still old people cars. Okay, do young folks buy Lexuses? And when you have a whole bunch of Lexuses together, is it Lexi at that point, or is it Lexuses? I mean, it seems strange.
I know what it is. It's you're not going on a date. That's what it is.
Come on. No, sorry. Okay, I have to stop you there. A young woman sees a beautiful car that looks expensive, no matter the brand. She's going to be impressed. So it could be a Lexus.
I mean, you need to meet Gen Z women, Joe. That's the thing. You need to meet Gen Z women if you're like,
I'm married. I don't have to do
first date.
Praise be to God.
I know that's the problem. Is you're operating out of a very clearly outdated idea about how women are. See, today when you sit down on a first date, I ask the first question. Oh, thanks for meeting me. Tell me a bit about yourself. Tell me about yourself as how many figures do you make? And you're like, what? My mom told me not to ask this question, but that's the question she asked.
I've got a figure.
Yeah, how many zeros in your paycheck? So
I've got a quite robust figure, actually. So
we know, Joe. Trust me, we all know. We all know you got a figure.
Kevlar Catholic says Kia is the new Gen Z caddy. Yeah, probably. Kia. Boy, do they still make Kias? Is that still a thing? Gen Z can't even afford a Kia these days. Whew.
So true.
Says the guy on the Queen Mary. Says the guy sailing back from England on the Queen Mary. Okay.
You're on the Queen Mary and you're watching this. Go look at the ocean, my man. Go be with your wife. You're on your honeymoon and you're looking at Joe McClane.
He's smoking his pipe. He's got his whiskey in his hand. He's on the back deck. He's enjoying the ocean with his wife.
You are
with his
on
wife with
your
him.
Freaking honeymoon and you're watching us talk about Joe's weight. What are you doing, my man? Go be with your wife.
Beverly Hamilton, Nick, we still have old-fashioned trad women in New Zealand. Good cooks, faithful, etc., etc. So New Zealand could be an option. You'd love to visit New Zealand,
That's
wouldn't
cool.
you?
Yeah, New Zealand, home of Lord of the Rings, Mordor, all of that. It's a pretty cool place.
Mordor. The hobbits. That's what's there. Is New Zealand's the Hobbits and
you're right.
the Rohirrim, that was also there. Mordor, that was
but see the thing is that when I show up and I start talking about this, no girl's going to want to date me. So
all right, this is what we're going to do. Beverly, we're going to ship Nicholas down to you in New Zealand. Your job, Beverly, is to gather all available single trad women into one room, and then Nicholas is going to have a conversation with him. Do a little interview, and we'll see where that goes. Let's do a little. Let's just do a little. What do you call it? Matchmaking. Let's do a little matchmaking, Beverly. Me and you. We're gonna get this. We're gonna
international.
We're gonna get Nicholas into a marriage today. That's what we're gonna do. We're gonna get this guy settled down. So he'll stop with this evangelical love fest. All this other stuff. He can settle down and get focused. We need Nick to be focused.
Yeah, I did tell a friend, though, yesterday about evangelicals. I was like, the one selling point evangelical churches have is there's lots of young singles there. I'm just saying. And, obviously people are going to respond. They'll be like, there's a zillion women at my trad parish. Well, congratulations. I'm glad that there is. But not at my parish. My parish is about to be shut down by a bishop who hates ICE and hates the trads. Yeah. So it is what it is.
Ouch. Antonia Mary Swift, the South Island is gorgeous. Lord of the Rings or not. I would love to visit someday down there. Oh, man, what I love. I'd love to hunt down there, to be honest with you. The hunting in New Zealand is epic. Truly epic. Someday. But I got to do it soon because my knees aren't getting any stronger, that's for sure. Can't climb those mountains for too many more decades. Cajun Mountain Man. Joe is thirsty, says John. Yeah, of course. This is the appropriate dosage for coffee prior to the show. And then, of course, after the show, you've got to refill it. But nonetheless, Cajun Mountain Man says, Mordor is pretty cool. No girl wants to date an orc sympathizer. Are you listening, Nick? No more orc sympathies for you.
But see, what the code language in my generation is the orcs are the migrants and the Shire is Europe and America. And so, yes, no good girl wants to date an orc, if you know what I mean.
If you know what I mean. Hey, Loki says, serious question. We have a population problem. Will you get a pass to have wives and concubines to populate the world? Not in my book, you won't. As Holy Roman Emperor, you get married to one woman and you only marry one woman and you have as many kids as you can, with God's grace, of course, and no concubines. Absolutely not. It's outside of God's will, for you to have concubines. That'd be my take. What would be yours? Now that you're Mormon evangelical.
Oh, you're such a backwardist, Joe. I mean, enforcing these primitive Christian rules on society. Haven't you learned anything from the church in the last 60 years? Is that any
clearly
all good morality?
I'm going to write myself.
It had a good run, but that's about it.
Read Vatican II again. Got it.
What you do is you take Vatican II, you turn it upside down, then you squint, and it says many concubines allowed.
Many concubines allowed. And no more purgatory. Praise be to God. Yeah, I don't know, man. How do you populate the world one child at a time, right? I mean, I guess it helped that Adam lived for as long as he did, 1,000 years. You can have a lot of kids in 1,000 years. The span with which a woman can bear children, if she lives 1,000 years, means she can have a lot of kids, and those kids can also go on to live 1,000 years and have a lot of kids. So you can quickly begin to populate planet Earth. It probably took a little bit longer for Shem, Japheth, and Ham to populate the Earth after Noah, but after the flood. But nonetheless, it does happen.
You know what God might have done? Because, I mean, who knows? God might have done this to troll all men everywhere. But what if he back then gave women the same fertility length as they do today? So you only get kids for a certain amount of time, but then for 1,000 years you're stuck with your wife. Oh man, talk about a troll right there.
No way. I mean, listen, the greatest thing that can happen to a man who is wandering about is marriage. To settle him down, to focus him, to spend that time, with your spouse, your sacrament. It's a great gift, which is why I think only those that God calls to that chaste single life, religious vocation, priesthood, like it takes a calling for that. It really, really takes a calling for that. I would say, we're past our fertility years, unfortunately, and it's a grace. I'm not going to go any further, but I'm just going to say it's an amazing grace to spend that time with your spouse. It really is. Hey, Gugwensa says, look at the mess Abraham got started by trying to reproduce on his own terms with his wife's concubine, I would say, or his wife's terms, I guess. Yeah,
it was his wife's terms, and I mean, he was married. He was married to Hagar, so there was no immorality or anything like that. There was, of course, some drama, but it was licit.
No, I disagree. I totally disagree. I mean, the promise was through Sarah. And he's like, and his wife's like, how about you try my concubine? He's like, golly gee willikers, Sarah, if you say so, okay, but only because you suggested it. And then guess what happens? Snip, snip. The next covenant that comes is directly related to the sin that he just committed. I'm going to remind you, Abraham, you're never going to forget. I'm going to chop off your foreskin and the foreskins of every dude in your camp. And you're never going to forget that you should have not done that. You got to keep this in your pants, pal, and learn to do it the way I asked.
Joe's biblical commentary, 40 pages on circumcision, must be an 100%. Interesting read.
100%. But it's a tome.
It's a tome called "Don't Do It, Don't Do It, Boys." I mean, she wasn't a concubine, and besides, as I've said before on my show, it's like concubines in the Old Testament weren't like what we think of as concubines today, where it's like a live-in girlfriend or something like that. She was a wife of a lesser social class in ancient Israel and ancient Hebrew culture. But I do agree with you. But I will say, to be fair to Hagar, at least the promise that was given about Isaac was after he was with Hagar in the chronology of Scripture. So that's the thing. My evangelical brain's remembering these things, Joe. All you can think about is circumcision.
Sorry, pal. You need to go watch. You need to go watch my 13-part Bible study. You need to go watch my 13-part Bible study on salvation history. We spent a lot of time on Abraham, going through sacred scripture. We read the Bible. We read it directly. I've got it in front of me every single day. You evangelical trope. Good grief. You and your buddies. And by the way, who said I was pro tattoo? I've never been pro tattoo, except for when I got my tattoo. Other than that one day when I got my tattoo, I've never been a pro tattoo guy.
Did you get mother? We know what generation you're from, so I was just curious.
No, I did the typical Marine Corps thing. I got a Marine Corps tattoo. That's what you do when you're in the Marine Corps. You get a Marine Corps tattoo. I got the Marine Corps Bulldog, but I was a Notre Dame football fan back in the early 90s. So I got the Notre Dame leprechaun straddling the Marine Corps Bulldog on my shoulder. Nick is on today, says the Lost Creole. How can he be on? He hates all Catholics everywhere. He's gone full set A, evangelical love fest today. I don't know we have to have an intervention in Nick's life, I think is what we need to do. We need to just show up, sit him down, and really just intervene before he runs off the cliff. I think he's going in a dangerous direction. Maybe I should get the Nova Sordo Watch on the show tomorrow to talk about how bad Nicholas Cavasos really is. Let me know if you guys want that.
Have Nova Sordo Watch on because they'll be all like, we're so happy. They call me the young Lefebvrist over there, which is really funny. I'm just like, okay. But now that I'm your king, I demand all of you. I demand all of you to be evangelicals and to have many wives and wear your underwear and say
wear
that
the
George
special
Washington
underwear.
is Lord.
George Washington is essentially the prophet, 100%.
I mean, he's pretty cool. Let's be honest. He's pretty cool.
Is he the greatest though? Is he truly the greatest president? Do you really believe that seriously? Put jokes aside, you think he's the greatest?
Oh yeah. No, I for sure think he's the greatest president. And
what makes him the greatest?
What makes him the greatest, I think, is partially the kind of what we were talking about earlier when it comes to the way that power corrupts an individual and his willingness to lay that aside. And also when you look at particularly his writings on the end of his life, he has the foresight on the guidance of America that I think is really, 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 I mean, we all talk about it, but it's very underrated, particularly, for instance, his foreign policy perspective on just like, don't get entangled with foreign conflicts and things along that nature. So he took us from 13, squabbling colonies that who knows if we were going to survive. We're now on our side of the ocean, cut off from essentially everybody. And he was the father of a nation that really pushed forward and became a great country. And so I think that you can't beat it in that context. Of course, greatness is defined in many perspectives. I guess you could say there's a greatness in foreign policy, greatness in domestic, what have you. But I do think he was genuinely the greatest president. Next would be Calvin Coolidge. Silent Cal. Silent Cal is very, very cool.
I don't know, man. As great as Washington was, he did not get past a secret, spying bill like George W. got past, right? Like only George W. could have two towers crash on his watch and kick off decades worth of never-ending wars and pass a spying bill that Americans could be spied upon. That takes greatness. Okay, that would build the case for the first trans president in the world. Was that out loud? I got to work on that.
To be fair to George Washington, he did have a good line against Al Gore. He says, this guy thinks he started the internet, but how do you boot up the internet? With W.
Oh, man.
Who else can say, we got these terrorists, now watch this drive, right? And swing a golf ball off into infinity. I mean, come on, right? We all love George Bush. We all love the millions of dead children, but the great golf lines like that. We love George Bush.
George. God help him. The Bushes. I used to like the Bushes. Man, it's too bad.
I know you did, Joe. I know you did. Trust me.
The first red flag wasn't until after. Wasn't until the election that got Obama. I think it was during that election when Obama was running. That was the first real red flag for me when I was starting to wake up, red-pilled, was seeing George Bush hang out with the Clintons as besties. I'm like, wait, hold on. You guys were like running against each other, bad-mouthing each other all the time, and here you are, best friends? Like, I just felt completely manipulated by all that. And I was like, what do I not know that I need to know? Sharon Felton, praise be to God. Good morning to you. You are amazing. Such a great fan and friend of the show. We're so grateful to you. Says, I love ACT and the Nutritional Thomist. May God reward your work. Yay and amen. Praise be to God. Thank you for that.
I'm thinking about changing my name for the show, Joe. Did you know that?
No. What are you going to do?
I think I'm just going to change it to Nick Cavasos. Because it's like, I feel
Nick.
like, you know,
how amazingly original.
Yeah, I know. It's really original because it's me. But I'm thinking about changing it just because, you know, I have these commenters who are very insecure and they like to point out, and they're like, what is the direction of your show? I don't understand. There's politics and religion. And I'm like, the direction of my show is stuff that interests me. That's the direction of my show. And so I think I'm going to just change it to Nick Cavasos. Right. And the description is talking about stuff I like. Because it's true.
It's so true. Well, there's never making everybody happy, right? Like, it is what it is. I called it a Catholic take so that it could be default enough to say I can talk about whatever I want and just have my Catholic take, my Catholic spin on it. So, but like, it kills me because sometimes we'll be in this after show. And of course, as you guys know, the conversations go in every single direction. We're talking about cars, food, movies, whatever. And then someone will show up and go, you guys are just nonsense. You never talk about things of substance. And I'm like, I spent an entire hour on the radio talking about substance. Where are you, Johnny come lately? There's no winning. There's never any winning, generally speaking. But it is what it is. Talk about what you want. Talk about what interests you. And I think that's part of what I would say is hats off to Dan and the team at Pelican Plus for trying to put a platform together that is not just talking heads. I think that's super important. I talked to Dan Sebany about 3 weeks ago, maybe 3 weeks ago now, 4 weeks, 3 weeks. And, you know, I was telling him, you need to have a platform that's going to be able to you got to do more than just talk about the news. You got to do more than just talk about the scandals in the church. You got to talk about cars. You got to talk about movies. You got to talk about food. You got to go hiking. You got to go hunting. You got to go cooking and gardening and all these things because we're all humans. We don't want more than just the headlines. We want to also learn how to do TV VCR repair, right? I got an engine to rebuild in my van now.
VCR repair?
Yeah,
VCR
back in my day.
Repair.
Of course.
No.
Okay, stop
VCR
it.
Repair.
Raise your hand. Who remembers Sally Struthers?
I want to see the demographics of this show.
Who remembers Sally Struthers and her infomercials with the TV VCR repair school? Who remembers that back in our day?
Not this kid, nor anybody born.
Have you ever seen an infomercial ever in your life? Infomercial.
Yeah,
you ever seen an infomercial?
I see it on TV land when I go and visit my grandparents at the old folks' home, but that's about it. Like, I mean, like TV land's great and all, but it's like, come on, VCR repair. Dude, I mean, if you want to feel all 90s, cool. But
so tempted to sign up for TV VCR repair school because of Sally Struthers. It was in a Betamax.
I'm glad you didn't, because you'd be bankrupt now. You'd be bankrupt, man.
I'm already bankrupt, so that ship has sailed.
But you'd be even more bankrupt. That's the problem. You'd be more bankrupt.
I'd be morally bankrupt, probably. Morally bankrupt. Paul, good morning again. Tim H., good to see you in the chat box. Mateus from sunny California. Praise be to God. Sci-Fi is here as well. I've heard the argument that Washington created the model. He didn't have a template to follow. You know, it helps when you show up to the Continental Congress in your military uniform going, oh, you guys are looking for a general. Well, I mean, who knew? I guess I'll do it.
Hey,
you know, he wasn't like soliciting for the job or anything.
He came ready. He followed his dad's instructions. His dad was like, look, you dress up for your job interview, son. He was like, yes, sir. And so he showed up. Like, let me show you guys. So,
yeah.
I mean, look, who else would you want to lead the Continental Army? Ben Franklin, the guy who's too interested in the weather over there, right? His son's a loyalist.
You're talking about the Elon of his generation. How can you fault good old Ben Franklin? Fun fact about Ben Franklin, he used to like to take off all of his clothes and sit in his room to do an air bath for his body once a day. Did you know that about Ben Franklin?
No, but I mean, kind of a way, who wouldn't? I mean, that sounds fun. So it sounds pretty relaxing. So Ben Franklin, man, he was
actually a very big pervert. He was a huge pervert.
Well, yeah, I mean, you could say he was a pervert. I was going to say he was a player.
He was a philanderer.
Yeah, I mean, he was a player. He liked the ladies. I mean, who doesn't like the ladies? But you got to like the ladies in moderation. And he liked it maybe a little too immoderately. And so, you got to be careful.
You got to be careful.
Yeah. That's what we call the charitable way of describing it, Joe. That's the Catholic way of describing it, Joe.
Yeah, you're being that's this whole evangelical love you got going on with the founding fathers. You're like,
honestly,
you can't
the founding
be critical
fathers were more based in the Vatican. Let's just be honest.
You just can't seem to bring yourself to criticize the founding fathers. You are founding fathers splaining at this point. You hear that? You are founding fathers splaining is what you're doing. You're spinning everything super positive. Are you the Michael Lofton of founding fathers? Is that what you are? I think you are.
I am, but I don't have a bald cap and I'm not fat. But I will say that what is interesting about all this, like
bald people.
It's like I said, what was it, like 4 or 5 weeks ago with you and Jake? I said, sometimes when you see the craziness in the Vatican these days, I just have to, when I'm away from all the camera and I'm in the dark recesses of my room, I just think to myself, oh, maybe the Enlightenment had a point. I don't know. Francis is kind of driving me here. I don't know.
Francis, the Enlightenment led to Francis. Are you kidding me? We get Francis because of the Enlightenment.
Whole submit, don't question anything. If you question something, you're a heretic. But if you are a heretic, we love you. Yeah, I just don't understand the cognitive dissonance in Rome right now.
This is the problem with Gen Zers. They buy all that revisionist history nonsense. Barfield Meow. I'm going to argue that's probably not your Christian name. I'm going to go on a limb here. You were not baptized with that name. Joe'd have a classic VCR eBay store. I probably should. I actually do own a VCR. We do have a VCR. We have it. It's downstairs. It's one of those VCR DVD player combos. They still sell them. You can still buy them. It's still a thing.
Yeah, you gotta watch Shelby Foote somehow.
Shelby Foote. My son, John Paul, he bought himself a set of Shelby Foote's multi-volume opus magnus on the American Civil War, and Shelby's just so great. You just listen like his.
Your sons are pretty cool. I got to meet him one time, and it was very brief, but the very brief interaction, I was like, these guys are cool. I want to hang out with them more, but I had to leave.
Then you had to leave. By the way, I'm glad you brought that up because my sons also like playing folk music. They're big into, fiddling and guitars and all those kinds of things. They want to know whether or not do you actually play? Do you play the fiddle? Do you play that banjo behind you?
Mm-hmm. I do.
In real life.
This one right here is not as often because this is a tenor 4-string, but I typically just play the classic 5-string one. I just played the Earl Scruggs style, as it's typically called.
Yeah. Okay. We need to have a hootenanny. We gotta get we need to do a gathering where we can play a bunch of folk music and get everybody together and have a great time. We should do that. Maybe at Sanctus Ranch we could pull that off. That'd be a fun time to do. Like a big ACT insider after show gathering where folk music is played. My kids would
Joe,
love for that.
Because it would only be people your age. That's the problem. If it was only ACT, I'm just saying.
Respect your elders, okay? Listen.
I know that's the thing. I am being respectful. Trust me. This is me being respectful. I'm just saying respectfully, Joe.
You're just worried that you're going to be asked to park their cars. That's your only problem. It's like they're going to show up and you'll be expected to park the cars.
I'd show up and they'd be like, who is this young whippersnapper? We want someone to park my car. And I'm like, your car is a Cadillac. You trust me with this? I don't know.
Oh, man, you just triggered me. I got a fun story of similar situation of a much older woman who's now gone on to her reward, God rest her soul, who owned an incredibly expensive Mercedes. I hadn't the slightest clue how to operate that stupid thing. She needed help moving it, and I tried to volunteer, and I'm like, how do you even start this thing? I couldn't find anything to like it was so far above my pay grade. I'm like, I don't even know what to do here. I was so embarrassed by it. She just like rolled her eyes at me like, get out of my car, you scallywag. Hey, Tradish Mom, good morning to you. Nick the Mike, praise be to God, good morning to you. Elizabeth V, you are on the team. Couldn't be more grateful to you. Says nobody has a VCR anymore. My VCR ate a videotape while I was trying to record an episode of The Seventh Heaven back in 2010. I think, and that's when I decided that it wasn't safe to play VHS tapes. I remember my dad in the late 80s. He had an entire library of VCR tapes that he had recorded all these movies and television shows, and then he made himself a list of everything he had, cataloged it, so I could like open it up and choose to watch the TV movie of the week, Pompeii. Who remembers that? And I could pull it off the thing and watch. Those were the good old days. Now all we got is Angel Studios. God help us for it too. Hey, that music means we're out of time. We're going to have to say goodbye to the set of a contest, Nick Cavasos, the evangelical Nick Cavasos, the man who hates all women, communists, and bald people, apparently. Until next Thursday, of course. Nick, thanks for hanging out with us today and having a laugh. We appreciate it. Check him out on Pelican Plus. Check out his YouTube channel. We'll put links to those in the show notes. We'll see you guys back here tomorrow morning for Fridays with Stein. God love you. God bless you.